once again. Another exciting episode.
Yay!
Yay!
We're going to talk about
Pastors Kathy and Mark.
and that's Burk over there at the corner.
In case you're wondering, since we have names labeling us, but just in case you weren't sure. Yes, that is Burk. Yay. That's the important part.
Let's talk about, horror, which is one of our, tried and true favorites.
We're sick people here at Cinemondo. We like gory horror. That's just what we do.
Yeah. This one, according to one reviewer, said the grossest, most elaborate kill scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Ooh. See, what's funny? Most people think that's negative.
Well,
but I love that they're leaning into the promotion of it.
But
I'm the person that doesn't like horror films. I some of my favorite, in fact, my top favorite films of all time often are horror films.
Yes.
But of all the horror films, I like this many of them, and if they're done right, I really love it. But I kind of have an issue with the weirdly gory ones for the sake of it, the mean-spirited ones, the gratuitous ones.
This one,
I have no such problem.
This one is experimental in the sense that it's an art house film. It's a Canadian film directed by Chris Nash. And it's all from the point of view of the killer, and the killer is very much in the Jason Voorhees vein. That's sort of the thing. But you'll see from the trailer that, it's not the point of view. You're not seeing his eyes. You're following him. So anyway,
see, I like that idea. Kind of putting you in his mindset. In a way, you're making us in partner with the killer now, which is an interesting idea. It could be really disturbing.
It's gotten wonderful reviews. It was a Sundance darling, so it's kind of one of those films that I think technically is interesting, but there is a lot of gore. So
all right, Burk, beware.
What's interesting with that concept? Let me say this really quickly. With that concept of being the person and being in that feeling. When I saw Silence of the Lambs for the first time, there's a scene in that where Hannibal Lecter is looking right at the camera while he's like slashing, hitting someone with a nightstick in that scene, and you see the blood. You see what is in effect your own blood splashing onto his face.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really powerful way to show it, and that whole film had people looking right into the lens of the camera. And it really, especially when Hannibal Lecter is looking right into your eyes. And then later in the film, he actually murders you.
Well, it's interesting too, because you get to see the last moments of the character's life, the way they would see it. Because normally, you're shooting around it or behind the killer, or but it's interesting to shoot up and see that's what someone's probably looking at right now.
Right.
Right.
Well, let's take a look at this one. This is one it's opening May 31st. Come to theaters. So check it out. In a Violent Nature.
Are we ready?
Ready.
And
let's do it.
Victims.
Yeah.
Shudder, yay.
What the
Animals don't get too hung up on reason. They just keep killing.
Whoa. Oh, God. Wow. Wow. I'll just say wow. Okay, what I loved about that last part, I love the super simple type. Looks like an indie 70s film almost. No designed horror type, just sans serif, or just a serif type.
Serif type, yeah.
That kind of woodsy, just because of a
unusual,
creepy, almost flat lighting, woodsy thing, and then the person kind of like quiet little weird moments. Like even the scene of him just standing with the woods around him. That's just so ingrained in what we think of like slasher movies of like a guy in the woods with you. Like,
Right.
and they didn't overplay it. It's not like low angles or weird lighting or blah. You know, it's like super quiet and creepy. Ugh.
And just that rhythm of him stepping and walking, like sort of unstoppable force, walking steadily, step by step towards
that
you.
I like, Burk. I mean, it's like it's that feeling of you know, whether it was
Impending
Terminator was like that, or
Can't stop it.
yeah.
And
So
just
that
the rhythmic,
feeling.
like when he goes into the place and the guy says, "What the?" and then he's got the gun and he drops the gun. It's all
He's like,
done
don't need a gun.
to the beat of that pulse of him of his walking. Nothing
I think
slows him down.
it's supposed to be like that for 90 minutes.
Ah.
So that's what you're getting. So that's an interesting experiment in filmmaking, whether that can actually work for 90 minutes, you know, because how do you make that interesting?
Well, you kill people. Make that interesting.
Right. I'm always excited about trying to do a horror film in a different way.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily into super ultra gory stuff. That kind of turns me off a little bit too. But if it's a good film, I'll watch it. You know, maybe close my eyes during that part. So.
I didn't get an indicator that it was super gory. I mean, I know they said that, but it seemed like a lot of stuff was from a distance. It seemed like, I don't know. We'll see. But the thing I also like that they're kind of playing with the knowledge horror movie fans have of like knowing the formulas, knowing what they look like, having been, you know, fed a steady diet of horror tropes, and then to actually be inside of it and showing it from behind the killer, walking toward the victim, how small the victim looks and how isolated they seem. Like normally we're seeing it from their point of view. You see a guy walking toward you, the threat. But it's fascinating to see you walking up on the victim. Like that's just super creepy. And in your head, you're kind of already formulating what's probably going to happen and how that feels, because we've seen so many horror films, especially slasher, you know.
Right.
Thank you, John Carpenter, for that. And we have posters that kind of play into it a little bit, like we have them from the back. I love that. It's that beautiful, just serif type, very classy, very just simple, beautiful. Like they don't try and make it look scary. It definitely looks art house. You know.
What's the tagline? Nature is
unforgiving.
Forgiving.
Okay.
You know, and then we have this kind of, you know, a little bit more slashery looking, but still I like this black and white and graphic. You know, it just has this. And this says the gnarliest kills I've ever seen. The gnarliest. They look pretty gnarly. And, you know, it's interesting. I didn't really see him in that kind of a mask. I mean, we didn't really see him a lot from the front, but.
Right.
And he didn't have a mask for private. So it looks like, I kind of like the idea that he's picking up stuff as he goes. Like we see him first, he doesn't have a mask on. He's walking through the woods. Then it's like, he kills a guy in the cabin, picks up the gun, but drops the gun because he's probably going to get another weapon along the way. So as he goes, it seems like he's picking up wardrobe and like his serial killer, you know, look as he's going and just acquiring, you know, as he goes. That's fascinating. I cannot wait to see what this is about. It could work or not work. It could be a mess or it could be really fascinating.
Right. Yeah. It's Shudder. So that means, you know, if you have Shudder, you can get a lot of interesting films coming.
I love Shudder.
Streaming. So In a Violent Nature, Canadian horror, Canadian nature horror, done in a sort of a quieter way, in a way. Like it felt like, you know, that first scene, you know, the quiet nature, you know, like
well, how scary. Being a serial killer is a lonely existence. You're by yourself most of the time.
Especially if you've been, you know, in the ground for 100 years or whatever.
Yeah, you come out of a grave, you're going to probably be stinky. No one wants to be around you. You're isolated in the middle of what's doing. What the hell are you doing here? You can't make friends because you're so angry at everyone all the time. It's hard. It's a hard life.
Let's see what that's all about. Coming soon. And maybe we'll do a review. Everybody, thanks so much.
We'll definitely do a review.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.